love you so.
You're the most wonderful thing in all the world.
I can't believe it.
That I love you?
Oh no, I'm sure of that.
There's, any doubt in your mind, I'll prove it again.
They'll see us. My dear, my dear.
Oh, no, don't move. You look so comfortable. Well, are you happy?
Oh, Mother.
Happy.
Shall we tell them all?
Tell them. What do you think they are, blind and deaf? It's been a perfectly wonderful dinner. You two were so blind to everything but each other. Oh, Billy, I thought your father would have a fit.
Oh, I thought he had an awful cold. He was coughing terribly.
Oh, coughing. He nearly strangled to keep from laughing. I told him I'd send him from the table if he laughed at you.
Why, you never spoke to him once.
Child, explain to him that wives don't have to. Oh, I forgot you haven't learned that yet. You know, Billy, I can talk to your father very effectively without using words.
Mrs. Crosby,
Mother, Nell's all fussed up because we have money. She thinks that you'll think I'm what in the novels they call marrying beneath me.
Well, he is.
Oh, nonsense. Child, don't be silly.
It's not silly, Mrs. Crosby. Everyone will say it, and they'll be right.
Well, let's settle this thing then now once and for all. In the first place, it's all nonsense, and in the second, it isn't true that...
Oh, yes, it is.
Oh, the first row. I'll settle this one. Nell.
Now then, Nell, get it all out of your system.
Well, in the first place, it's the money.
Yes, but Helen.
Please, let me say it all. You have social position, great wealth, charming friends, everything that makes life worth... Oh, what's the use? You and I both know the great difference between us, and...
My dear child, suppose we admit all that. What then?
Oh, but don't you see?
You little idiot, I don't see anything but you.
Well, that's the whole of it, children. You love each other. Suppose you listen to an old woman.
Old.
Well, old enough. Well, if Billy was the usual rich man's son, things might be different. There might be something in what you say, but thank goodness he isn't. Mind you, I don't say he wasn't when he was younger. I know he went to supper with a chorus girl once.
Twice.
What was she like?
Like a chorus girl.
The trouble with you, my dears, you've been reading novels. When Billy's father married me, I was a school teacher and he was a clerk. We didn't have any money, but we were awfully in love. We still rather like each other. Now, just for the sake of argument, suppose we had acted as stern parents. What would be the use? Billy's in business for himself. He makes his own money. He can marry when he wants to and as he wants to. And if you want my real opinion, I think he's pretty lucky to get you.
There.
But you know so little about me.
Oh, rot.
Oh, thank you, Billy. I was looking for an effective word. You've been my private secretary for over a year now. And as much as my looks may be lied, I'm not a bit of a fool. I know a great deal about you.
Yes, but my family...
I'm not marrying your family.
I'm afraid you are.
Oh?
Well, there's only Mother.
Oh, goodness, your mother. Forgive me. She should have been here tonight.
Oh, no, Mrs. Crosby, Mother doesn't go out. She'd be unhappy here, and you'd feel uncomfortable if she came. You'll find her trying sometimes. You'll think she's common. Oh, but don't misunderstand me. I think she's the most wonderful woman in the world.
Suppose, my dear, we take your mother for granted. Take us as you find us, and we'll try to be happy. Oh, well, Roscoe.
Welcome, my dear.
Mr. Crosby,
Milkshake. Shall I tell them?
I would.
Tell us what?
You did this just in time. Tomorrow I was going to forbid you to have anything to do with this young lady.
You see?
What for?
Your mother and I felt you were a little slow with your engagement.
Oh, Mother.
And I know darn well if I interfered, you'd take the girl out and marry her.
You old schemer.
I bet it would have worked.
It would.
I came ahead of the others to tell you...
Oh, why, old man, you came just in time to congratulate them.
On what?
Oh, why, they're going to be married. Isn't it fine?
Oh.
You haven't congratulated us yet, Mr. Wales.
No, Billy, I haven't. I don't think that I can.
Why, Ed?
I believe this is intolerable.
Yes, I imagine that it is.
Well?
I'm sorry. I can tell you nothing until tomorrow.
Oh, but Mr. Wales, really, don't you think...
Well, I think my actions are almost indefensible. I'm admitting that. But I have good reasons for what I'm doing. Roscoe, you've been my friend for a great many years. You've trusted in me, believed in me. And now I'm asking you to wait. After all, 24 hours can't make a difference, and it could save you all a great deal of unhappiness.
This is unbearable.
Ed, I don't understand.
Father, this is my affair.
I'm sorry.
Sorry? I should think you would be.
Billy, I told you what would happen. Mr. Wales, I don't know what you found out about me, but it's nothing of which I'm ashamed. Nothing.
Dear, you mustn't mind what he says.
But I do. My mother is the most wonderful woman in the world, and I won't have her attacked. Do you know what she did for me? When I was 10 years old, she sent me away from her. I was the one thing she had in this world to love, and she sent me away. Because she thought it was the best thing she could do for me. I was sent to a fine school, and then to college, and then when I was 19, quite by accident, I found out that she wasn't dead as they had always told me. When I finally went to her, all she said was, "Well, my dear, I wanted to make a lady of you."
Well, I think she succeeded, my child.
Miss O'Neill, I didn't even know that you had a mother.
Then you better tell us now whatever your objection
I
is.
can tell you nothing until tomorrow. Billy, I'd rather be shot than do what I'm doing. If I'm wrong, I'll come to you and gladly eat dirt. I'll beg this young lady's pardon on my knees if she likes. But I can say nothing more about it until then.
And then he said, "Whose wife?"
Quiet, everybody, please. I have a surprise for you. Nellie and I are going to be married.
If you hadn't been engaged to her, she could have you arrested for the way you made eyes at her at dinner, Billy. But of course, if people will marry, why, I hope you'll be awfully happy.
Oh, isn't it beautiful?
I'm glad, Billy. Glad.
I propose a toast.
Yes. Marriage is such an awful gamble. I know a girl who tried it 4 times. Billy, I hope you... Why, they're gone.
Mrs. Crosby, the person you sent the call for has arrived.
Can we see her now, Mrs. Crosby?
Certainly. Pollock, ask Madame LaGrange if she will come in, please.
Yes, madame.
I'm perfectly thrilled. Do you suppose she expects to be taken seriously?
Of course.
How funny. If you don't laugh at her, we can have no end of fun. I'll guy her terribly, and she'll never know it in the world.
Oh, I wouldn't say that, Mary. She may be quite in earnest.
I can't think so. Madame LaGrange. I can see her now. Tall, black-haired creature, regular adventuress. See if she isn't. Isn't she, Mr. Wales?
She's the most remarkable woman I've ever known.
Madame LaGrange.
Good evening, all of you.
Well, how do you do, Madame LaGrange?
I'm well, thank you, ma'am.
Won't you come in?
I will, ma'am. Good evening to you, Mr. Wales. Sure, it was a grand hack you sent for me.
We all wanted you to be comfortable.
Sure, and I was. Do you know, ma'am, when the gentleman in uniform first came for me, I thought he was the police.
I hope you were frightened.
Divil a bit. Sure, I'd like to see the cop that could frighten me. They're nice boys, them caps. Most of them good Catholics.
Mr. Wales tells us that you're wonderful.
I am that. Any woman is.
So you tell fortunes?
No, miss. I do not. I get messages from them that have passed on. I don't hold it all with the tea leaves, nor cards, nor any of them tricks. Once in a while, I give advice. If I was you, miss, I wouldn't meet Jimmy at the Ritz at 3 tomorrow. Well, sir, and how are you?
We're all expecting great things from you tonight, Madame LaGrange.
Are you now? Well, I hope you won't be disappointed.
I suppose there are a lot of tricks of that.
Oh, you said it, sir, but I suppose mine is the only trade that there's any tricks in.
Why shouldn't I meet Jimmy at the Ritz tomorrow?
If you do, sure something terrible is liable to happen to him.
What?
If you keep meeting the man, he's liable to marry you.
Would you mind telling me how you know this young lady's gonna meet Jimmy at the Ritz tomorrow?
Sure, I would not. While I was waiting in the hall, I read the letter she left in her bag.
How did you know it was my bag?
Sure, the stuff on the bag matches the stuff on your dress.
Well, then is it all trickery?
It is, ma'am, and it ain't. Most of the times it's tricks, even with the best of us. But there's been times in my life, well, ma'am, them times it wasn't tricks. Messages from them that's passed on. Things I couldn't explain myself. And there is a power. A wonderful power that comes to us. But the devil of it is you never know when it's coming. Sure, if you waited for it, you'd starve to death. So when it ain't there, we use tricks.
Well, I think I understand.
Oh, do you now, ma'am? Do you now? I thought you might.
But don't you think all of this is dishonest?
What's dishonest?
Tricking a lot of poor, ignorant people.
Well, it's all in the way you look at it. A witty woman came to me this morning with a breaking heart for the man that was gone. I went into a trance for her, and Laughing Eyes, me spirit control, came with a message from him. She said that he was in heaven with all the angels, and there was no cold nor hunger, and the streets was paved with gold, and there was music and happiness everywhere. She told her that he was waiting and watching every day and every hour until the day that she would come. Now tell me that wasn't worth any woman's 50 cents. The man may have been in hell for all I know.
What I can't understand is why you're telling us all this.
If we know they are fooling...
Didn't Mr. Wales tell you?
I've told him nothing.
Well, tell them now, please, sir.
When I asked Madame Lagrange to come here tonight, she said she would under certain conditions.
Oh, you mean like test conditions?
Not exactly. She's asked that no money exchange hands, and that whatever she does, she'll be honest.
Oh, you mean you won't play any tricks?
If I do, I'll tell you.
Of course we understand all about spirit rappings.
Oh, do you now?
Well, rather.
Well, what do you think of that?
Well, you have to be near a table or something like that.
Or a chair or a desk might do.
And then in the dark...
Of course, in the dark. And you've got one knock for yes and two for no.
Yes.
Are those spirits near?
No, don't. Please be still.
But...
Is it Laughing Eyes? And you can't speak to me in the light? Are you happy? Is there someone here you don't like? A gentleman? Dear, a lady. Is it? That one? Laughing Eyes doesn't like it.
That's the most wonderful thing I've ever heard.
I don't think.
Oh, it couldn't have been a trick. She just stood there. I watched her hands every minute.
Sure, you watched the wrong enemy. There's a wooden sole in me shoe. You do it with your foot like this. Sure, it's a trick.
Well, then if we get any messages...
If you get any messages, sir, and I'm telling you now, most of the time it's fake. With me, or that Palandino. And it was with Slade and all the rest of the trance mediums. But tonight, there'll be no faking. I'm a stranger to all of yous except for Mr. Wales. I don't know who lives in this house. I don't know the name of any one of you. Mr. Wales told me that he'd be wanting me and that he'd be sending for me. And he hasn't told me one word about any one of you.
This is quite true.
You haven't given her a hint of any sort.
On my word of honor.
Madame Lagrange,
Sir?
I know this man who saw that woman, Palandino, lift a table merely by putting her hands on it.
Will someone take the lamp off of that table and bring it down here?
So to be good.
Thank you, sir. You mean? Like this?
Yes, I suppose that was it.
In the dark, you wouldn't have hardly noticed my thumbs as much, but it can be done. I don't say that I can do it in the light, but I can try if you'd like.
Oh, that'd be
Yeah,
beautiful.
please.
Well, you mean without any tricks?
I mean, like this.
Good God.
What did I tell you?
Now you know what I can do, but I can trick you too. So you'll have to take my word for it that I won't. Me spirit control is a sweet little child named Laughing Eyes.
Wait, are you asking us to believe that a spirit of a dead child?
To them that believes there is no death. Glory be, your own religion teaches you that.
But not that the spirits of the dead come back to earth.
Man, I did not come here to argue with you, and I'm not going to argue with anyone. I don't understand you. You're all of little faith. Maybe I should spend my time elsewhere.
Oh, no, won't you please stay?
Sure, ma'am. I'd be glad to.
And you're willing to submit to our conditions.
Why, of course, sir. Anything within reason.
Why?
Wait! Something's coming to me. Don't anyone speak. It's a message. Give me your hand, miss. Lady, the spirits tell me you're the favorite child of fortune. You've got nothing coming to you but happiness. You'll have wealth, happiness, prosperity, and you'll marry the man that you love. And you'll be happy all your life long. There's something else I got to tell her. Just for herself it is. Being a young girl like, it's in her modesty that I'm sparing.
Mother,
Sure, darling, I didn't know. They just brought me here. You know I wouldn't have come for anything in the world. Don't tell them. Don't have me shame you in front of your fine friends. I'll get away the minute I can. I'll leave the minute that I can.
But Mother, there's no shame. I'm proud.
Well, tell them afterwards if you must. But let me get away first. Now remember, miss, all the love in the world is hanging over you and praying for your happiness. Don't let it go.
What did she tell you?
You heard most of it. I'll tell you the rest later.
I think I better go.
What do you all think? Madame Lagrange wants to call off the seance.
I thought she might.
Oh, no, won't you stay?
I'm sorry, ma'am, but I mustn't. I just ain't feeling myself tonight.
Really, Madame Lagrange, I'm afraid under the circumstances...
I'm sorry, sir, but I got to go.
I think it's a shame for us to bother her, and I think she's quite right to go. Her sort of tricks aren't for people of intelligence.
Oh, won't you please stay?
I'm sorry, miss, but I mustn't.
Won't you as a great favor to me?
Well, miss, since you asked it.
I'm very glad. Really, I'm greatly interested.
Are you now, ma'am?
I think after what we have seen, we must ask Madame Lagrange to submit to certain conditions.
Anything at all, sir. Anything at all.
I agree with you. Frankly, this woman impresses me. I think this test should be conducted seriously.
Just what I was going to say?
If you will submit to these certain conditions, Madame Lagrange, and then show us any manifestations, I'll never scoff at anything again.
Sure. Our scoffing's the easiest thing anyone can do. If I could stop that in just one person, it would be a good job. What was it that you wanted?
I want the windows fastened.
That's the idea.
And the doors locked. Will that be all right?
It will.
At the risk of seeming unnecessarily skeptical, I'm going to suggest that we search Madame Lagrange. That is, of course, if she's willing.
There's no holes in me stockings.
I suppose it's going to be difficult for you to get results, with us being so antagonistic.
Well, sir, it's up to them. If there were any that want to get any contact with any here, I don't know. I don't understand you. I showed you all the tricks. Would I have done that if I wanted to fool you? I would not. Then why won't you give me credit for being honest?
Yes, I'm sure Madame Lagrange is perfectly honest. We made certain stipulations to which she has agreed. Now the discussion is ended. We're ready when you are, Madame Lagrange.
I'm ready.
Well, do you know, I don't think it would be necessary to subject Madame Lagrange to being searched. I'm quite sure we can spare her that indignity.
Sure, ma'am. I don't mind. As long as you fine ladies won't be shocked at seeing a pair of plain hand-sewn underwear.
Oh, well, then come with me, please. I'm sure we won't be shocked. I wear that kind myself. We shan't be long.
Ma'am, do you mind if all the rest of the ladies came along? Then they'll all be sure that I ain't concealing nothing.
Do you really want that window fastened?
I don't care.
I'd like to make the test that way. I have a queer feeling about that woman. I believe she really has a power of some sort. I know it sounds funny, but you all saw her lift that table, and there could be no trick about it at all. I'm sure of it.
All right, then you fasten the windows. Billy, you and Brad go into the dining room and get some chairs. We're gonna need a lot. You put them in a circle, don't you?
I believe so.
What are you gonna do, Wales? Ask her a lot of questions?
Going to ask her who killed Spencer Lee.
Still harping about the murder of old Spencer Lee.
Yes.
Who was Spencer Lee?
The best friend I ever had. You knew Spencer, didn't you? I thought Mrs. Trent introduced you to her while you were seeing her.
Well, she might have, and I simply don't remember.
We all knew Lee pretty well, and I know he was no good.
You can't talk that way about him, Standish.
I didn't bring up the matter, you know. And I don't want to hurt Ed's feelings, but I know the police found a lot of compromising letters and rotten things of that sort.
I don't give a damn what they found. Well, Spencer Lee was my friend, and if I can do anything to find out who killed him, I'm going to do it. was a damn brutal murder. Stabbed in the back. Poor man. Without even a chance to fight for his life.
It's funny, I don't remember anything about the case.
It happened before you got back from France. No. By Jove, it didn't either. It happened a day or two after. I remember because I had lunch with you the day you got back and then dinner that night with Spencer. Funny you don't remember anything about it.
Well, of course, I must have seen it in the papers, but I don't go in much for crimes, and not remembering the man, I wasn't interested.
It was a great deal of sensation. The man knew a lot of nice people. He came here a lot, didn't he, Mr. Crosby?
At one time, but after Helen married, he rather dropped out of it. Fact is, until Trent here appeared on the scene, he was always hanging around.
Funny they never found out who killed him.
They may yet. They haven't stopped trying.
Oh, are the police still interested?
Yes, they're interested. In fact, they've offered a $5,000 reward for the discovery of the murderers.
Sure of that.
I offered it.
You?
Yes, me. What sort of man do you think I am? Do you think I just sit by and let the murderers of Spencer Lee go free? I'd known the man all of his life. We were the closest kind of friends.
But if he was the kind of man that Stainer says
I
that
don't
he was-
care what he was. He was my friend, and I'm not going to rest until I find out who killed him.
But if he was...
I wouldn't care so much if they'd given the poor devil half a chance for his life, but they stabbed him in the back.
Weren't there any indications?
There were no indications as to who did it. A knife wound between the shoulder blades. No knife ever found. Nothing stolen, nothing disturbed. The police have found that a young woman came to see him 2 or 3 hours before his body was discovered. That's all we know.
And now you're going to try spiritualism.
Yes. Do any of you object?
Certainly not. I'm rather for it.
No, you are doing this seriously. This is not a joke.
Quite seriously. Well, why don't someone laugh?
My dear man, why should anyone laugh? This queer old woman may possess powers of which we know nothing about. Personally, I don't believe in that sort of thing, but I'm not going to laugh at it. Neither am I going to have any trickery, and if there is any, I'm going to find a way to expose it.
That's perfectly fair.
You've been at these seances, or whatever you call them, before.
Yes.
In the dark,
Invariably.
I may want light. Billy, if I call for lights, I want you to give them to me immediately. Don't wait for anything, understand?
Perfectly, Dad.
All right, then.
I think it wasn't fair to us.
Sure, ma'am, I didn't mind.
I can assure you there isn't anything up your sleeve.
What were you expecting? Burglars' tools?
We fasten the windows, Madame LaGrange.
Have you now?
And now, if you don't mind, I'm going to lock the doors and keep the keys in my pocket.
That's fine. It's all one to me.
Now, may I see that that's done, Mr. Crosby?
Can't you trust me?
Well, it's not that. I just want to be sure, to see for myself.
Lock that door yourself, then. Better check it, Mason. Now we'll do this one. No, I have a better way for this. My dear, will you ring for Pollock?
What are you going to do now?
Wait and see. You don't object to this, do you?
No, sir, I do not.
Yes, Mr. Crosby.
Pollock, I'd like you to keep these keys in your pocket.
Yes, sir.
Now then, I'd like you to take the key from that door, lock it on the outside, understand?
Yes, Mr. Crosby.
I want you to take that key and I want you to put it in your pocket, and I do not want you to unlock that door until I tell you to do so. Understand?
Yes, sir. To take this key, lock this door from the outside, put the key in my pocket and stay just outside it. Not open the door for anyone until you tell me, sir.
Exactly. Are you there, Pollock?
Yes, Mr. Crosby.
And are the keys in your pocket?
Right so, sir.
Good. Now we are ready, Madame LaGrange.
Well, then if you'll all sit in a circle and hold hands. Hold hands? You're gonna love this.
Is there any way you want us to sit? Any particular order?
Any way at all.
And then he said, whose wife?
I'll sit here.
Any way will do.
Well, I'm to sit next to you, Mr. Crosby.
Oh, really? I've always wanted to hold your hands, my dear.
Oh, don't trust him, Daisy.
Oh, I won't, Mrs. Crosby. I'll chaperone them.
Will you sit by me?
I'll take that seat then.
I'm really getting quite a thrill. What's the joke, Madame LaGrange?
Oh, I didn't know anything could thrill you, miss.
You don't like me very very much, do you, Madame LaGrange?
Sure, miss. I'm crazy about you.
I think we're ready now.
There are 13 of us. Oh, don't sit there, Mr. Wales.
I don't mind those little superstitions.
Well, what do we do now?
Well, if you'll all join hands. Just sit quiet and don't try to think of anything.
By Jove, that'll be easy for me.
We can't accomplish anything if you treat this as a joke.
Let's be serious.
Why, Howard.
Well, there might be something to it. Anyhow, it's only fair to Madame LaGrange. Would you like the lights out? I've always thought that would be necessary.
We'll get better results that way.
All right, then. Billy, turn out the lights as soon as we're ready.
Right you are, Dad.
Oh, certainly.
All right, then. Now, you won't be frightened if I cry or moan or anything like that when I go into a trance.
Oh, dear.
I'm not in pain or anything like that. I don't even know that I do such things, but I've been told. Me spirit controls a sweet little child named Laughing Eyes. When she begins to talk, you can ask her anything you'd like. If she doesn't answer you, she don't want to talk to you. So let somebody else have a try. That's all. Now, sir, you can turn out the light.
No, that won't do. Billy, pull down the blinds. The light from the ceiling's too strong.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, lights on.
Sure, it's a trick. I was going to ask you to tie me hands to the arm of the chair first, but I thought I'd show you this.
Well, I don't see how you did it even now.
Well, the sense of touch isn't much developed except when you're blind. Things happen in the dark. When this young gentleman let go of my hand to turn out the light, I let go of Mr. Crosby's hand. And when the lights went out, the two gentlemen were holding hands just as comfortable as could be. It's an old trick. All the mediums use it. Anyone can do it. Now, if you'll tie me in, we can continue.
Well, how do we know you can't get out, even then?
Tie me so I can't.
I'll see to that. I would like something strong.
Take handkerchiefs. They're strong enough.
Well, they'll do very well. May I have 3 more?
Here's mine. There you go.
And now, if you don't mind, Madame LaGrange, I don't see why you just did that.
Well, sir, I wanted to be sure.
Why?
Because I think something is going to happen. I think there will be manifestations. And I wanted you all to know that I wasn't fooling.
Why should we think that you were?
Sure, you thought nothing else since I came into the room.
Mason, see if she can get free from that.
Well, that seems pretty secure. Someone else have a look at it.
Yes, I'd say she's stuck. Good.
I'm going to fasten your ankles now, Madame LaGrange.
I don't think this is necessary.
Why not, sir? If they want it. There you go. Nice and tight now.
Get these.
I'm almost there. There you go.
Now I'm sure she can't get away.
Me too.
Well then, if you'll all sit down. You'll have to take my hands this time. Are you all satisfied now? Is there anything else I can do for you?
Really?
Then, if you'll all sit quiet and just keep your minds free. Now, sir, you can turn out the lights.
Well then.
Oh. Oh. Ah.
What's going on?
Ah.
I can't stand this.
Keep still. She told us to keep still.
What is
Say something.
What is that? Shh. Laughing Eyes is sad. Very sad. I'm a long way off. a long way. Bad people unhappy. He's unhappy. Spencer wants to tell Ned about the letter. And the pain in the back, it burns like a knife.
Oh my God.
Ned. He wants Ned. Is Ned here?
Ned? Who's Ned? Who does he want to speak to?
Spencer wants to tell Ned about the letters and the pain in the back. In the back.
What's in the back? Ask him what's in the back.
The knife. Ned. He wants Ned.
What do you want?
The swimming pool. Don't ever forget the swimming pool. Don't ever forget.
Is he talking about when he went in after me? When I was drowning, when we were little boys. Is that what he wants me to remember?
Spencer says he can't rest. Too far away. Too far away. You promised.
Promised what? When did I promise?
Your life saved.
Now I know. I promised I'd do anything in the world for him. Yes, of course I remember, Spencer, but what do you want me to do?
Fine.
Do you want me to find the letters?
On the back. Someone saved.
You're trying to tell who killed you.
Ask.
You want me to ask questions? You can't talk much, is that it?
Too far away.
You know who killed you.
Ned. He wants Ned.
You want me to ask?
He wants Ned to ask.
Do you know who killed you? Can you give me a name? Do you know who killed you? She's coming out of her trance. Spencer, I need a name. Spencer! The name! The name! My bad!
Stand back, please! Why it's impossible?
Roscoe, look at your hand!
Molly! Get on the phone at once and call police headquarters. Get Inspector Donahue over you can. Tell him to come to this house at once.
Father, what do you suppose it is?
He was just talking and then... Roscoe, are you sure? Have we sent for Dr.
It's no use.
He's dead. Murdered.
What?
Mr. Wales was stabbed in the back, just as Spencer Lee was stabbed in the back.
Just as he was asking. Just as he was trying to find out who.
What is it? No, not until the inspector tells you.
Someday we'll build a home on a hilltop high, you and I, shiny and new, a cottage that two can fill, and we'll be pleased to be called the folks who live on the hill. Someday we may be adding a thing or two.
Father, please, let me go to my room.
It's impossible, my dear.
But Mr.
It's
Crosby!
quite impossible.
Mr. Crosby, I must...
Mr. Standish, I just refuse to let my own daughter leave this room.
Don't you see, sir?
My dear Standish, Mr. Wales was just killed in this room. We are all under suspicion, every one of us. It's an awful thing to say, but some one of us has killed Wales. But which one of us? Yes.
The police are here, sir.
Who is it?
Inspector Donahue.
Pollock, you'll give Inspector Donahue all the keys.
Yes, Mr. Crosby. What is all this? I don't know, sir. I'll hold on to this door. I don't know what's been going on inside. Then I was told to call you. This is the right key for that door, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, Wales. Where's Mr. Wales? How did you know that?
I don't know anything. I was thinking of something else. I was told I was wanted here in a hurry.
Who are you asking for, Wales? Wales is dead, that's why I sent for you.
Wales is what?
Wales is dead.
Yes, and if you ask me...
Just a minute, please, miss. It must have been very sudden. Why, only this afternoon I was... Did he ask you to send for me?
Inspector Donahue, you don't seem to understand. Mr. Wales was killed in this room not 15 minutes ago.
Mike, that door. Where have you taken him?
There.
Who did this?
We don't know.
Then I suppose we'll have to find out. What's this?
Oh, good heavens, we forgot to untie her. I'm so sorry.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm quite comfortable as it is, though. I'll stay as I am if you don't mind.
But...
I think we'll leave things as they are for the present.
A cop with brains.
Let's see if you can't use them then. Now, Mr. Crosby, explain what happened.
I know it sounds foolish, but we were having a spiritualistic seance. Madame LaGrange is a medium.
I see.
We were all sitting in the circle in the dark, holding hands, when suddenly Wales cried out. I called for my son to turn on the lights, and he did so at once. What we discovered was Wales lying forward in his chair, his hand still grasped by the people he sat between, and all the rest of us were just sitting around.
All of you?
Yes.
But I thought you told your son to turn on the lights.
Wait, if you're implying that...
I'm not implying anything. Just please, answer my questions.
Inspector, I was sitting there and simply made a move to turn on the light. I'd chosen the seat purposely. We wanted to expose any trickery if we found it.
I understand. Go on, Mr. Crosby.
In a moment, Wales fell to the floor. I ran to him to see what was the matter. What I discovered was that he had been stabbed in the back. Before we could call for aid, he was dead.
Did he say anything?
No, he was dead before we got to him.
What happened then?
We sent for you.
But why for me? Why not simply notify the police? Was there any specific reason for wanting me?
There was, but I wasn't conscious of it at the time. You see, earlier in the evening, we had been discussing the murder of Spencer Lee, and subconsciously I remembered that you were handling the case. That's why your name came to mind, that's all.
I see. Well, who's left or entered the room since? And of course you know you had no right to move Mr. Wales' body.
Yes, I know, but it was a little bit too much, him lying on the floor and us being locked in here.
Locked in?
Yes, we had all the windows fastened and all the doors locked for the seance. Pollock held all the keys and I refused to let him unlock the door until you came.
Mr. Crosby, you are forgiven for breaking the coroner's rule. So, as I understand it, you were all in here with the doors and windows locked, the lights were off, Wales was stabbed in the back, the lights were turned back on, and no one has left or entered the room since?
No one but you.
Well, I didn't kill him. Which one of you did? Well, I'm not going to employ the usual police methods. There will be no threatening or bulldozing or badgering, but you can all see that there can be no escape for the guilty person. Now, I realize that this is a difficult situation for all of you, but the only way to relieve it is for the murderer of Mr. Wales to confess. It will save a long, and I assure you, very trying police investigation. Let me also add that there will be no recriminations, no unpleasant scenes. Now, I realize that this seems like a very weak plea for a confession, but I am relying on the intelligence of the people in this room. I have unlimited time, but not a great deal of patience. Well, very well then. Oh, what's your name?
Mary Eastwood.
Now, a moment ago, Miss Eastwood, you started to tell me something. You said, if you ask me. Well, now I'm asking you. What is it you wanted to say?
Well, I don't want to especially, but I think I ought to, since no one else seems to have thought of it. Before we started the seance, we were all sitting in a circle holding hands. Now, as I understand
We can take it for granted that I know how it's done. Go on, please.
The medium broke out of the circle without our knowing it, and then showed us how she did the trick.
I see.
Why couldn't she have done that again? Of course, that's what somebody did. And if she could break out of the circle without our knowing it, then she could get back in, too, couldn't she? That's what I wanted to tell you.
If any one of you or all of you, can get me out of this without untying me or cutting me loose, then I'll say I done that murder.
Thank you very much, Miss Eastwood, but it's only fair to tell you that there isn't a trick or an effect that these people do that the police do not understand perfectly.
Oh, is that so?
Why was she tied up?
At her own request, as Miss Eastwood just said, she showed us how she broke free of the circle and suggested that we tie her to that chair for she wouldn't do it again.
It's lucky for her that she did. Even if she could get out of these knots, there's no way in the world she could get back in.
Inspector dear, could you untie me? Me foot's asleep.
Would you please? Yes, you. Just me. Thank you very much, Miss Eastwood. That eliminates one.
Clinton, can I go?
You may not. Does anyone else have anything they want to tell me? No? Mike? You better call down to the coroner, ask him to come up here, but tell him I do not want this case reported yet, and suggest that he hurries.
Yes, sir.
That open door does not mean freedom for any of you.
Now look, Inspector, I have an important business engagement tomorrow at 10 o'clock. My father-in-law
It's
here...
quite impossible.
This is all very well, Inspector. But you know you can't keep us in this room forever. Now, if you're going to take the consequences of accusing me of murder, well, that's your affair. But my patience is drawing thin, and I haven't the slightest intention of remaining here much longer. Unless, of course, you're going to arrest me.
I see. By the way, who are you?
Howard Standish of Standish, Giles and Updegraff, 120 Broadway. My brother is Judge Standish of the Supreme Court.
And you refuse to remain here any longer.
I most certainly do.
Very well, Mr. Standish of Standish, Giles, and Updegraff. You're hereby under arrest as a material witness in this case. As soon as Sergeant Dunn gets back, he'll call a patrol wagon to take you down to the house of detention. Are there any others who insist on leaving this room?
I beg your pardon, Inspector. I acted like a fool.
Not at all. Your actions are entirely natural.
Hello? Hello? Oh, no, sir. The inspector wants you to come here at once. Yes, we're at Mr. Roscoe Crosby's house. No, sir. He doesn't want the case reported yet.
Oh, we needn't be bothered with that anyway. Well, I'm afraid we'll have to begin work. Now, with the exception of Mr. Crosby, who is known to nearly everyone, and Mr. Standish, who has so pleasantly introduced himself to me, I know none of you. So I'll just have to ask if you... That's a rather gruesome thing there. I think we'll need to move it into the other room. Would some of you gentlemen please move Mr. Wales' body into another room? Thank you very much. We'll just...
Inspector, Dr. Bernstein himself is on his way here.
Good. Mike, get Horace, Doolin, and one of the servants to help you carry the body into the other room. I won't need to trouble you gentlemen after all. It's funny how these old superstitions seem to cling to us. One of the first tests for guilt created by the detectives was to ask the supposed murderer to touch the body of the victim. Guess it didn't work very well, did it? Certainly all four of you gentlemen can't all be guilty. Well, I guess we'll just have to try something else then. Because you know I am going to arrest the murderer of Edward Wales tonight. Ah, yes, good. Boys, just move him into another room.
Into that room, please.
Inspector, the door's locked.
Oh, yes, try these keys. And Mike, make as quick an examination as you can and report back to me here. Now, if you all will come a little closer, please. I can see you all quite comfortably. Now, as I was saying a moment ago, I'll need to find out something about each one of you. You, madame?
I'm Alicia Crosby. Mrs. Roscoe Crosby.
Thank you. Sorry to trouble you, Miss...
I'm Elizabeth Erskine.
It's not necessary to tell your age.
I wasn't going to. I'm the daughter of Edward Erskine. My father is the banker.
I know, thank you. So you're merely a guest here?
A friend.
Miss Eastwood, I already know you. You, miss?
Grace. Grace Standish.
My sister.
And that young lady?
This is my daughter, Mrs. Trent. She and Trent here live with us.
You, sir?
Philip Mason.
That doesn't tell me very much.
Well, there's not much to tell, really. I'm a friend of the family's. We've known each other for years. I lived in Paris for the past 2 or 3 years. And, well, I'm a painter.
Do you mean an artist?
Well, I don't paint houses or fences, but I hardly call myself an artist yet.
Poor, I suppose. I know you'll excuse that question.
No, I don't mind. No, I'm not poor.
You, young man.
I'm Will Crosby.
Live at home, I suppose.
Certainly, where else should I live?
I thought perhaps you might be married.
No, he's not, but if he were, he'd live at home.
No, Father, when I marry, I'm gonna have a home of my own.
Oh, nonsense, don't talk like a fool. You'd live at home with me and your mother. And your wife, of course.
I think perhaps we might defer this discussion for later, gentlemen. And this young lady.
My fiancée, Miss O'Neill.
That finishes that.
But, Inspector, you haven't asked anything about the medium.
Perhaps I don't consider that necessary, Miss Eastwood.
But...
And I'm terribly set on conducting this investigation my own way, if you don't mind.
Inspector.
Oh, well.
Well, I can't tell for sure, but I guess the knife went clean into the heart. He must have died instantly.
All right. Call me as soon as the coroner arrives. Oh, and Mike, you better let me have a look at the knife.
The knife?
Yeah, the knife.
I haven't seen any knife. I thought you had it.
I don't have it. Mr. Crosby?
We didn't find it.
You look carefully?
Everywhere while we were waiting for you.
Who moved Mr. Wales to the sofa?
I did.
No one else touched him?
No one.
What did you do after you moved him to the sofa?
When I saw that he'd been stabbed in the back, I looked for the knife.
Where?
On the floor, underneath chairs, everywhere I could think of.
No trace of it?
None.
How long after you found Mr. Wales was stabbed did you wait to turn on the light?
Inspector Donahue, I already told you we turned on the light before we realized what had happened.
Could the knife be hidden about the room?
I doubt it very much.
Why?
I don't think there'd have been enough time. I don't see how anyone could have done it. It's all a mystery to me. Remember, Inspector, I already told you the circle is still intact.
I remember. So if the knife is hidden, it's probably on the person of the man or woman who used it.
I should think so, undoubtedly.
Mike, call down to the station house, have them send a matron over here.
Yes, sir.
Now, about that light. There was only one lamp turned on, as I recall.
Someone turned on the rest of the lights almost at once.
Could it be possible for the knife to be hidden about the room since that time?
It's extremely unlikely. We have all been here together, and a thing of that sort would have been seen.
Then I suppose we'll find it without much trouble. In the meantime, I think we'll let it remain where it is. You all see how inevitably the guilty person must be found. Don't you think it would be much easier to confess? No. Very well then. I guess we'll have to continue. I'd like to visualize the scene a little more clearly. Let's form that circle again. Of course, this time without Mr. Wales. Won't you all please sit as you were during the seance?
Bill, you were next to the lamp, and Mam LaGrange was next to you, and I was next to her.
Right, then how did they sit?
I'm trying to remember. It's a queer thing what a jumbled memory one has. If anyone would have asked me where we sat, I would have thought I could explain with great accuracy. But I can't somehow.
Oh, well, I sat next to you, Mr. Crosby. Oh, don't you remember, Mrs. Crosby? He said he'd always wanted to hold my hand, and we joked about it.
Yes, I remember.
That's all right then. Who came next?
Inspector, I can place them all for you.
But you said you didn't care how we sat.
Nor did I, sir. But I was paying attention to where you were sitting. May I go ahead?
If you would be so kind.
That young lady sat here. Well, that young gentleman came next.
By George, she's right. That is where I was sitting. I couldn't have told you myself, Inspector, but she's right.
And this young woman sat there, while that gentleman sat right there.
No, she's wrong about, No, that's right. I remember perfectly. I was next to Miss O'Neill. I know just how her hand felt in the dark.
Well, really, Mr. Mason?
Oh, well, I didn't mean it that way at all. I assure you I didn't.
Then why did you say it?
My dear fellow, I've apologized. You are misunderstanding me.
I think we're all a little frazzled. Inspector Donahue, must we go through all this again?
I am afraid so, Mrs. Crosby.
Then let's get it over with as quickly as possible.
Mr. Crosby, you seem to forget that this is a police investigation and must be conducted as I see fit. Who sat next to Mr. Mason?
She came next.
I was next to Mr. Mason. Wasn't I, Philip?
Yes.
Then who sat there?
Mr. Wales did. I know because I sat there next to him. Would you like me to sit there now?
If you would be so good.
And I was next to Mrs. Trent.
I was here between Mr. Standish and Billy.
Now, you are all quite sure you're in the same places you were during the seance.
There's some mix-up here. I know I wasn't next to Mr. Wales.
Of course you weren't. I don't know what I could have been thinking of. I sat where Miss Eastwood is.
Yes, and I was next to Mr. Trent, in between Philip and Mr. Trent.
Then if you ladies would please exchange places. Now we're all right, aren't we? You're all quite sure you're in the same places you were during the seance.
Yes, I think so.
We'll pretend Mr. Wales is still sitting here. Now, Mr. Crosby, I'll ask you to tell me what happened after the seance began, but first I'll ask you this. Was there any special arrangement to the seats?
No, there was not, sir. And I'm terribly sorry about the mistake I made about the two young ladies. I don't know how I came to make a mistake like that.
It's quite all right. If they couldn't remember where they were sitting, I can't expect you to be entirely accurate. However, we are all right now. Now, go on, Mr. Crosby.
Well, after Madame LaGrange showed us how she broke out of...
I know how mediums break out of circles and things like that, and you needn't tell me how she went into a trance of hers.
Inspector, I don't think you're being completely fair to this woman. I think there's something pretty important that you haven't been told.
Well, you had better tell me now.
Well, in order that there be no deception, we had Madame LaGrange searched. And while she was out of the room...
Oh, she left the room?
Yes, but all the other women went with her. And while she was out of the room, someone suggested that we ask Madame LaGrange some special thing. And Wales said he was going to ask her to get in touch with Spencer Lee to see if we couldn't find out who killed him.
Most ridiculous thing.
Anyway, as soon as she went into that trance of hers, or whatever it was, Spencer Lee's spirit tried to talk to us.
You mean she started to give you messages from the spirit of Spencer Lee without knowing that that was what you were trying to get?
Exactly. And now there's no use in trying to tell me there's nothing in spiritualism, because now I know better.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mason. I'm anxious to hear what she had to say because I am a great deal interested in the Spencer Lee case myself.
So you think there is something in this spiritualism? I never did before today, by Jove, but you know, you just can't explain this any other way.
Madame LaGrange went into a trance. We'll grant that much anyway. Now, Mr. Crosby.
She began speaking in the voice of a little child.
That was Laughing Eyes, the spirit control.
And what did Laughing Eyes have to say?
None of it was very clear. It was all jumbled up, but she seemed to be trying to talk for someone to someone. She kept calling for Ned. Then she began speaking deeply in a man's voice.
Did the man's message have any importance? I mean, did it seem to make sense?
Oh, it was perfectly coherent at any rate. I can't give you the exact words, but...
I can. It said, Ned. I want Ned. Why doesn't Ned answer me?
And did anyone answer?
Eventually, Wales replied.
All right, I want you all to be very careful in what you tell me. I don't want any surmises. Now, first of all, did the messages come for anyone besides Mr. Wales?
There was at no time the mention of Wales' name. The calls were always for Ned.
Did anyone else answer the calls?
Well, I asked 1 or 2 questions, but no attention was paid to them.
And what did Wales say to all this?
I don't think Mr. Wales said anything until the message about saving his life came.
And after that?
Then there was a regular conversation between them.
Then there's some talk about some letters. I remember, too, that Mr. Wales said, "Are you trying to tell me who killed you?"
What was the reply to that?
Well, all we got were the words, ask, ask, ask.
And then I said, "You know who killed you."
Did you get a response?
No, the reply came in another cry for Ned.
What happened then?
Mr. Wales said, "You know who killed you."
Did he get an answer?
No. The medium began to moan and cry, and Mr. Wales asked her again and again. He kept saying, "Tell me who killed you. I want the name." He must have asked that 2 or 3 times. Then he cried out.
And then?
That's all.
Inspector, matron's here.
Oh, just another minute. Just one more question, Mr. Crosby. Did you get the impression that if Mr. Wales had not been killed, his question would have been answered?
If you grant that the seance was real, it'd be impossible to come to any other conclusion.
And it was well established in your mind that Mr. Wales was the only one that could get an answer.
Yes.
So it follows that Mr. Wales was killed in order to keep his question from being answered.
That's the impression I got.
And this leads to the conclusion that whoever killed Mr. Wales knows who killed Spencer Lee.
I should think so.
And it's not difficult to surmise that the killer of Mr. Wales was actuated by the strongest of all motivations, self-protection. And in all human probability, the murderer of Mr. Wales also murdered Spencer Lee. You see, with a little patience, we've come a long way in our investigation. Now, I don't wish to put you all through the humiliation of a search. I would like to end this inquiry here and now. Well? Very well then. There's a police matron in the other room who will search the ladies of the party. Sergeant Dunn will perform a similar duty with the gentlemen. Mike, you'll take them one at a time. Makes no difference to me in what order they go.
Well, I've got nothing to conceal.
Neither do I.
I'd prefer you wait a minute, Ma'am LaGrange. Any of the other ladies will do.
Well, I suppose I'll set myself as a good example to the others.
Thank you. And thank you all for the great help you've given me. You needn't sit there any longer unless you wish.
Inspector, I think you're perfectly wonderful.
Well, the police haven't done very much yet, Miss Eastwood. Give us a little time. Ma'am LaGrange,
Sir?
there is a question I wish to ask you.
Anything at all, sir?
When Mr. Wales asked you for the name, why didn't you answer him?
I was in a trance.
So you didn't hear the question?
How could I?
That's not what I'm asking. I want to know why you didn't answer him.
I already told you, sir. I was in a trance. I didn't know what was going on.
Why didn't you give the name you had agreed with Wales you would tell?
Agreed?
You heard what I said. Well, why didn't you hold up your end of the bargain? Why didn't you just give the name as you had planned?
Sir, I don't understand what you're talking about.
My words are perfectly plain. I want to know why you didn't hold up your end of the bargain.
Bargain? There wasn't any bargain.
The whole seance was a fake. It was not only planned, but rehearsed by you and Wales. He told you that he thought a woman had killed his friend and asked for your help to discover the murderer.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Every detail of this seance was planned. When he asked you for the name, you were supposed to tell him the name of a woman.
Sir, I've never heard a word of this before.
Not a word.
So help me, not a word.
What do you want? Answer. Don't forget the swimming pool. Don't ever forget the swimming pool. Do you mean the time he went in after me when we were little boys? Spencer Lee says he can't rest, and so on, down to, do you know who killed you? The answer should have been yes. What did she say?
She didn't answer that question.
The next question is, can you tell the name? Mr. Crosby, what did she say to that?
She moaned and cried.
And after that?
Nothing. She moaned and then came out of that so-called trance.
Why didn't you do as you'd agreed?
I don't know what you're talking about,
The
sir.
police know that some woman killed Spencer Lee. Something was taken from the inside pocket of his vest. We believe it was a package of letters. This woman left traces. We have her fingerprints, many of them. And eventually we will find this woman. For the last 3 or 4 weeks, Wales had been working among the people who knew Lee. His theory was that this woman was trying to get her letters back. In fact, did get them back. And he felt reasonably sure he had found this woman. That one of you ladies here tonight is most probably the woman we have been hunting. He felt he could play upon her superstitious fears, and when her name seemingly rose from the spirits of the dead, she would confess. He told Ma'am LaGrange the name, explained to her exactly what he wanted, and together, he and I worked out the exact wording in the messages as they were to come from Spencer Lee. Now, you agreed to all of this. Why didn't you just speak the name?
There wasn't any name. He must have forgotten to tell me.
No, he didn't.
There wasn't any name. So he didn't tell me any name.
Dear woman, you mustn't take me for a fool. You agreed to use a certain name. You came here for that purpose. And then when you got here, something happened to make you change your plans. Something unexpected happened. Miss Eastwood, what did you say her first name was?
Mary.
Mr. Crosby, your wife's given name is?
Alicia.
And yours?
Grace.
Yours?
Elizabeth.
Yours?
Helen.
Yours?
Helen.
Helen? So there are 2 Helens. 2 Helens. Mr. Crosby, did Madame LaGrange show any surprise at seeing any of the people here tonight?
None that I noticed.
Oh, yes, she did. Miss O'Neill wasn't in the room when she arrived. Later on when she came in, the old woman seemed upset. And then she told her something none of the rest of us could hear. Then I remember she got in an argument with Mr. Wales and said she didn't feel like having a seance.
Now we're getting to it. Everything was going along smoothly until Miss O'Neill came in. The extra Helen. Rosalie LaGrange, what's this girl to you?
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all. And why did you try to deceive me as to where she sat? Why did you place her so I wouldn't know she was sitting next to Wales when he was stabbed?
Just a mistake.
I'm afraid that will not do. Seems perfectly clear to me that the name you were to speak was Helen. What is the use of lying to me? You have done your best to protect this girl. Now I want to know why.
There was no reason for it. I've never
What
seen a young lady before
is
in
this
all
girl
my
to
life.
you?
Nothing. Nothing.
Damn
at
you!
all.
You're
Leave
lying!
my
You
mother
don't.
alone! Leave my mother alone.
I thought I might get it that way.
It's all right. It's all right.
Of course, it's all right. We have fingerprints.
If you
booking-
think for 1 minute I'm gonna
Billy,
let you...
wait. Think what you...
Think nothing. That's the girl I love, and I'll be damned if I let you take her fingerprints.
I am sorry, young man, but it is too clear.
Clear? How can it be clear? Inspector, you're never going to accuse me, little girl, of doing a thing like that.
She was sitting next to him. She had only to free one hand, strike, and take his hand again.
But she'd have to have something else before she could ever do a thing like that. She'd have to have murder in her heart.
Well?
Look at the face of her. Look in the eyes of her. Is there murder there? Man, haven't you got eyes in your head?
Inspector, it's not on either of them.
I know where it is. Tell the matron she'll find the knife on this girl.
Inspector, for God's sake, don't do it. I'll tell you anything you want to know. Only keep your hands off me, little girl. I came here tonight, like you said, and when I seen my child, I lost my head. I'm just an old woman that ain't got no sense. I tried to save her and only made matters worse. You've looked at her, the poor young thing that couldn't hurt a fly, and you think she could do a thing like that?
Yes.
Well then, Tim Donahue, you're a damn fool, and God helping me, I'll prove it.
And Jill, the folks who like to be called what they have always been called.
Help me. Me Nellie's in trouble, terrible trouble. And there ain't no one to help her but me. She's a good girl. You know that. You know all things. You know she's a good girl. Show me the way. Sure, I've been a faker all my life. I've tricked him and fooled him. But I never knowingly done harm to a soul. I never knowingly done harm to no one. And there is a power. A way of knowing that I felt and showed before. But now when I want something, I get nothing. Oh, laughing eyes, you're no good to me in this world. If I could find the knife, the marks of a murderer would be on it. The murderer would know. But it's gone. It's gone. If I could have a sign, a real sign. Laughing eyes, are we going to be beaten by a scheming old cold-hearted murderer? I didn't do that. I didn't do that. A real sign after all these years. I'll take it in the dark, believing and trusting that I'm to be shown. A real message. A real message.
Excuse me, madame. I knocked twice, but you didn't answer.
I know. It was a message just the same.
The inspector says, have you got anything you want to tell him? The inspector says, have you got anything you want to tell him?
Who turned off the light?
I did, sir.
Why?
I was praying
Praying. For what?
for guidance, sir.
I hope you get it.
Oh, I will, sir. I will. I'll be joining the others now.
I think you'd better wait. Mike?
Yes, sir.
Did Madame LaGrange see you when she first came in?
No, sir. I followed your instructions and kept out of sight.
All right. How long has she been here?
About 10 minutes.
Time enough for her to find what we couldn't.
I'll bet she's got it.
All right. Take her to Mrs. McPherson. Tell her she's not to go near anyone or speak to anyone. Tell Mrs. Mack to search her. Unless, of course, you'd like to give up the knife now.
I've got no knife, and I've already been searched once.
Exactly, and then you were allowed to come back into the room. We are rather anxious to see what you found while you were in here.
What I found, sir, would be of no good to you.
I'll be the best judge of that. What is it that you found?
A sort of comfort, sir. A feeling that the innocent would come to no harm.
Take her to Mrs. McPherson. Come back as soon as you turn her over to the matron.
Yes, sir. Come on.
I'm coming.
Mrs. Mack's got her.
She turned off that light. I wonder why. What could she want in the dark?
I sent him to see if they'd hidden the knife up there.
Horace? Did you find anything up there?
Nothing but dirt. Who pays for this uniform?
You don't anyway. So could he hear anything while you were up there?
Not a thing.
Are you sure?
Certain.
All right, go take it back. 'Tain't Saturday.
Well, don't it beat hell?
What?
Well, the knife couldn't have flew away.
Well, we will find it eventually. It is in this room somewhere.
No, sir, it ain't.
Where have you looked?
Everywhere.
Not hidden in the furniture?
I'll gamble it ain't. I took up the rugs and shook them. Now, I dug through the upholstery and the furniture. And I looked back at Matt on the wall. It's not in the bric-a-brac, whatever these swells call their jugs.
Well, unless it's on the old woman, it's still in this room.
I suppose you noticed she opened the window.
I did notice that. Mike, you've got the makings of a great detective.
I'm a darn good detective now.
Say, Doolin!
Yes, Inspector.
You see anything out there?
An old lady came to the window just now, looking up at the sky, and staring at the stars, I guess.
She have anything in her hand?
I'm afraid not, Inspector.
Maybe she threw something out the window.
Light from this lamp was shining right on it. I could see everything.
All right, you're to arrest anyone leaving the house.
Gotcha, Inspector.
We will find the knife eventually. All right, get me Mr. Crosby and the O'Neill girl. That's the order I want to see him in.
Your man sent for me, Inspector?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry to have to give orders in your house. If you don't like it, I could take everyone down to police headquarters, but you know what would happen, what the newspapers would do if I took all these ladies and gentlemen downtown. In the end, this way would be best for you and your friends.
Thank you. I think you better regard this house as your own for the present.
All right. I think I'll use this room as a sort of headquarters for the present.
I've already told you to use this house as your own.
Thank you. Good evening.
I'm dismissed?
Yes, you're dismissed. Why did Mr. Wales object to the engagement of your son and Helen O'Neill?
Who told you that?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I know that he did. Why?
I can't talk about it.
All right, you're the best judge of that. I'm only attaching a great deal of importance to this fact. If I'm unduly emphasizing its value, don't you think you'd better set me straight on it?
What possible bearing can it have on this
Motive,
case?
my dear sir, motive.
Come now, you can't think this young girl killed Wales because she heard him ask us to wait before we sanctioned her engagement to my son.
No. She did hear Mr. Wales make that objection? That's just what I wanted to know.
I think I better send for my lawyer.
Well, you can do as you like about that. Frankly, I don't understand your attitude at all. I can appreciate your desire to spare your son all the unhappiness that you can, but if this girl killed Wales and Lee, the sooner we find out about it, the better for you and your family.
Oddly enough, I was thinking only of Miss O'Neill for the moment.
Well, you'd better think of yourself and your family first.
Well, that's for me to decide, but I am certainly not going to allow this young girl to be bullied and badgered around in the usual police
You
fashion.
will do as you are told. Sir, if you warn that girl, if you caution her in any way, I will drag every one of you downtown. You and your wife and your son and the girl and all of your friends. Be reasonable, Mr. Crosby. If the girl is innocent, telling me the truth will not hurt her. If she's guilty, and I think she is, by God, I will drag the truth out of her and her mother. Yes, come in.
You wanted me?
Yes, please, take a seat.
Helen.
What you are about to do, Mr. Crosby, will only make matters worse. I promise you that. Please, take a seat. Now then, young woman, let's hear what you have to say.
Nothing.
Nothing. Well, I don't suppose it's necessary for me to tell you that you are under grave suspicion here.
No. I realize that.
Now, the best way for you to help yourself, if you're innocent, is to be quite frank with me. Well?
I've already told you there's nothing I can say.
Someone has advised you not to speak to me? Who was it? You had better tell me.
I'm not going to answer any of your questions.
I told you that if you're innocent, nothing you could say would hurt you. If you're guilty, well, that's another matter.
You know that I didn't do it.
Well, there you go then. Why not answer my questions? The sooner we find out who is guilty, the sooner you will be free from suspicion. You can see that, can't you?
Yes.
All right. Now we're getting along. So, how long did you know Spencer Lee? You had better make up your mind to talk, do you hear? Why, you little fool, do you think you can fight me? You were the last one to see Spencer Lee alive, and yes, you saw him dead, too. You heard Wales threaten to tell these people what he knew about you. You knew he threatened your chance to marry this young millionaire, so when your chance came in the dark, you killed him. Now you come across with the truth.
She'll come across with nothing. You said that she was the one that did it and that you'd find the knife on her. Well, you didn't, did you? And you think she's the one that killed Spencer Lee?
Yes!
Well, she ain't. You say you got the fingerprints of the girl that was in his rooms. Now take Nellie's. Take Nellie's and put him up against
Mother!
yours if you already have bad sister. What?
What were you going to say?
Nothing.
That's very wise of you.
Got it, Inspector.
Do they compare?
To a T.
All right, let me have him. Now, call Mr. Crosby and his son to come up here. I already have your daughter's fingerprints, Madame LaGrange.
Oh, do you now? It's smart, Yar.
That's all, Mike. Now, Mr. Crosby, I told you I would have this case settled in a matter of minutes. Well, the end has come sooner than I thought. I'm now ready to make an arrest. I have called you and your son here because this is the woman we have been hunting.
That's a lie.
Here is the cup, which we took from Spencer Lee's rooms. Here are the fingerprints of the woman who used them. Here is the saucer that she used. More fingerprints. Now, a moment ago, I sent this young woman a letter. The man who gave it to her wore gloves, and so did I while I addressed it. Now, hers are the only naked hands to have touched it. Now, these are unquestionably Helen O'Neill's fingerprints, and so, Mr. Crosby, are these. There can be no more doubt about it. There is never any doubt about this method of identification. In 20 years, there has never been one mistake. We now have what we have been hunting, the woman who went to Spencer Lee's rooms.
Look at me, my dear. Look at your old mother. Why don't you say something?
I can't.
What can she say?
Dear, tell him it's a lie. Wait, please. Let me talk to her. My dear, you understand that none of us believe what Inspector Donahue wants us to believe. That you're no more guilty of this terrible crime than I am. We want to help you. You understand that, don't you?
Yes.
I won't have this.
I'm afraid you must, my son. My dear, we want to help you, so you must be perfectly frank with us. Inspector Donahue says he can prove you went into that man's rooms. Is that true?
Yes.
And what if she did? She had a good errand. What did you go for, darling?
I can't tell you.
Dear, you must tell us. My dear, it isn't that we don't trust you. Surely you know how we all love you. But we must know the truth, so we can show him how wrong he really is.
Yes, I'm waiting to be shown.
Why did you go to Spencer Lee?
You mustn't ask me that. I can't tell you.
But if you don't tell us, how can we help you?
I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything.
We know that, my dear. But why did you go? Did you know Spencer Lee?
Of course you did.
Why don't she speak for herself?
Because I'll speak for her.
Can't you even answer that question?
Dear, don't you see what they'll think? You must tell me.
I can't. Can I speak to Mother alone?
Yes.
No, you may not.
Where's the harm in that? Hasn't a child got the right to speak to her own mother for a few minutes?
Anything you have to say, you can say in front of me.
Sure, darling. You needn't mind the nice inspector. Don't I know that there's never been a thing that you could tell me that you couldn't have told in front of the whole world? Now then, tell your old brother.
I can't. I can't.
My dear.
Who did you promise you wouldn't?
Well, how did you...
She's shielding someone.
No. No.
And that's the first lie that you've ever told. And I know it. Is she your girl?
Yes.
Then you make her tell.
Now, dear, you
Billy,
must...
I can't.
My dear, even if you're protecting someone else, I think you ought to tell us.
Why are you all against me? Why are you all trying to make me break my
Break
word?
your word, is it? Then you should not. There's never been an O'Neill in the world that would ever break their word. Sure, I've known it. 'Tis blind I've been. You're the one that found out about the two Helens. The extra Helen, says you. Will you bring the other Helen in?
No,
here?
Mother,
You ask
stop!
her. Stop, is it? Sure, I will not.
Wait. Is it my daughter you're protecting? Because if it is, as much as we love her, we cannot accept that sacrifice from you. I'm her father, and you must tell me the truth. Did my daughter send you? Did you go for my daughter?
Yes.
I knew it.
My daughter sent you what for?
Some letters.
Why didn't she go herself?
She was afraid.
Go on.
Tell the inspector, dear.
Yes, darling. Tell the inspector what happened.
Nothing happened. That's the funny part of it. The moment Mr. Lee found out that I knew about the letters, everything was changed. I told him that unless he gave them to me, I was going to tell Mr. Crosby about them. He seemed terribly upset. He said he didn't mean to frighten Helen, that he loved her and he was desperate. I thought it was a funny kind of love, but I didn't tell him that. And then he gave me the letters.
Was this before or after you had tea with him?
Before.
All right, go on. He gave you the letters.
Yes, and he seemed terribly upset. He asked me to sit and talk with him for a few minutes, and I did. And then he asked me to have tea with him, and I did that too.
How charming. What'd you do after tea?
I came home and gave Helen her letters.
And that's all?
That's all.
Why did you do all of this?
She's Billy's sister.
My congratulations, young woman. That was beautifully done, and she looked so innocent, too.
Well, you don't believe a
Not
word
one word of it, not one word.
And why not?
That I don't is sufficient. Your daughter
It's
is
the truth.
You expect me to believe for 1 minute that a man like Lee would threaten your sister, and when a complete stranger comes and mentions letters, turn them over without a fight? When no jury in the world is going to believe her story.
Jury, you're not going to arrest her.
She is arrested.
You got no proof.
All the proof that I need. And if she was innocent, why didn't she tell me all this when I first questioned her? Why did she wait until after she knew I had proof she had been to Spencer Lee's room?
She was protecting my sister.
Women don't hang together like that.
Sure they do.
They do not.
The poor creatures.
I know them. She wasn't protecting your sister, she was protecting herself, and they had tea before she asked for the letters and not after.
How do you know that?
She couldn't have tea with the man she had just killed.
Why, damn you!
Billy!
No.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to lose my temper. I guess we should all be taking this in calmly. Do you honestly believe that Nellie killed this man?
Yes.
Why should she?
She was engaged to you. He had compromising letters. She had written him. He was threatening her with exposure. She went to get the letters. They had tea. She's admitted that after we proved it. Then when she asked for the letters and he wouldn't turn them over, she killed him. So much for the first murder. Now the second. Mr. Wales was already threatening her with exposure. And in another minute, the medium would have said hers as the name of the person who had been to Spencer Lee's rooms. She had only to raise one hand, strike, and take his hand again. Now, young man, you will have a difficult time tearing apart that chain of evidence.
Barring the fact that she never wrote the man a letter in her life. 'Tis a grand case you've got.
Of course. Dad, we've lost our brains. She didn't go for her own letters. You were speaking of juries. Do you really think that any jury would believe that a woman would kill a man to get another woman's letters for her?
Where are you going?
To get my sister.
Wait.
But I want to ask her...
I'll ask my own questions if you don't mind. If you want to help me, you might call Sergeant Dunn for me.
Sergeant Don, the inspector wants you.
Ask Mrs. Trent to come out here. I sent for Mrs. Trent.
I know that. What did you want to see her about?
Mrs. Trent, did you send this girl to Spencer Lee's rooms to get letters you had written him?
Did she what?
Did you, Mrs. Trent?
Certainly not.
Why?
Keep still, you. Are you sure?
Of course she's sure.
Mr. Trent, you must stop these constant interruptions. Will you please answer my questions?
I've never written a letter to Spencer Lee before in my life. How dare you say I sent you there?
You did. You did.
Detective, I don't know what she's told you.
Never mind what she told me. I want to be very sure about this. You did not send this girl to Spencer Lee's rooms.
No.
You had no letters of yours?
No.
Do you know whether this girl had written him letters?
I don't know anything about it.
But Nell didn't know Lee, and Helen, you did.
What about that, Mrs. Trent?
I haven't seen Spencer Lee in 2 or 3 years. He used to come here a good deal. He wanted to marry me, but I didn't like him. And I certainly never wrote him letters of any sort. And that's all I can say about that.
Very well, that's all I wanted to know.
You're lying to save yourself. You have to tell the truth.
She is telling the truth.
She's not.
I'm sorry, Billy.
Father, you know that I...
Yes, dear, I know. Inspector Donahue, do you want us anymore?
No more, thank you.
Come then, children. All right.
Mike, take her downtown.
Inspector, I wouldn't if I were you. I know who done it.
Who was it?
I can't tell you now. But I will. I will.
Telling is not enough. There is only one thing that will convince me that your daughter didn't kill Spencer Lee.
What, Inspector?
The confession of the one who did. If you can get me that, then I'll set your daughter free.
Give me a chance. Give me time. Keep them all here an hour more. Just an hour more.
No! Give her a chance. We're all here. No one can get away. What's a few minutes gonna make?
Mike, I'll give him 10 minutes. Tell Doolin he's to arrest anyone leaving the house, and I want you to stay on the front door yourself.
Yes, sir.
You have 10 minutes.
Why didn't you say who did it?
Sure, I got no idea. But I'll find out.
But how?
You, run into the other room. Bring them all here, every one of them, and do it quick. You, sir, you know which is Mr. Whale's overcoat?
Yes, I think so.
Run down the hall and get a glove of his or something, and hurry. Did he get it?
What are you going to do?
Lie to him? Trick him? It's for Nellie. Can you blame me?
Is there anything I can do to help?
Glory be! A man after my own spirit. I'm going to do something to put the fear of God into the heart of that murderer. Can you blame me? It's our only chance.
They're coming.
Leave the door open so we can hear him. Child, kiss me for luck. It'll do no harm to kiss him, too. Now, here's a talk to you you're to be making. Son, can you lie?
Can I?
When they come in, tell them that I asked for something to Mr. Wales, and as soon as I got the glove, I went off like they see me now. Don't take your eyes off them. Don't look at me. Don't take your eyes off of them. Do you understand?
I understand.
You, stand here back of me. Nellie, stand close by me. No, go further back. Now this will be the realest trance you've ever seen, and the grandest fake.
You sent for us, Billy.
What's happened? I'm not sure exactly. We were talking of this awful thing. She knew, of course, that her daughter couldn't have done the murder. She asked me to get something that belonged to poor Wales, so I got a glove out of his overcoat pocket and handed it to her. She went stiff like that all of a sudden. I don't know what it means.
She's like ice. She's not. No. It's a trance.
I wouldn't touch her if I were you.
Hello, everybody. What are you all so solemn about, anyway? I have a new friend here. He doesn't want me to tell his message. He wants to talk for himself. He thinks he can talk. He says you're all fools. It's so plain. So plain. He says he's looking right straight at the one who did it. Right straight at the one who did it.
I'm coming to you until you tell. I can't speak names. You've got to tell. I'm coming again and again and again until you tell. Find the knife. You must find the knife. The marks will show. The marks will show.
This has got to stop.
No, you mustn't touch her.
It's all right as far as the men are concerned, but look at this girl. They'll all be like this if this isn't stopped.
Trent, let the medium alone. You understand? Let the medium alone.
It's Wales's voice. Wales is dead.
You that's hiding, come out. You that's skulking, come out. I call upon the spirit of Edward Wales. I call upon the spirit of Edward Wales. Now you that's killed 2 men, look.
What's going
All right, everyone.
Somebody put the lights back on.
Try to stay calm.
Mr. Mason?
Philip, are you okay?
Oh, I can't fight the dead. I can't fight the dead.
Go on. Tell us.
I had to do it.
You killed them both?
Yes.
Mr. Wales prevents his finding out about Spencer Lee?
Yes.
And Spencer Lee?
Oh, he ought to have been killed. I've been waiting for years to kill him.
Why?
Well, that's between him and me. He smashed my life, and by God, I got him.
Why did you kill Spencer Lee?
Well, I did it for you, Helen. You knew I'd never let him threaten you. And so I killed him. I killed him. I did it for you, Helen.
He's crazy. I don't know what he's talking about.
How did you get the knife in the ceiling?
I threw it. Just as I threw the knife into Spencer Lee's back, I stood in his doorway, and I told him I'd come to kill him. And he ran for his revolver. And as he ran, I threw the knife into his back. I walked over, I picked up my knife, and I walked away. I was quite safe. No one saw. Quite safe until she came, and then unseen hands pushed me forward. Unseen hands and pointed the way. She's not human. You all heard her. Through her lips came Wales's voice. He said he'd come again, again and again. And then he came. I saw him as he came through that door. God Almighty, I can't fight the dead.
That's your man, Sergeant.
You got him?
I got him.
Great work, Chief. Great work.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are all quite at liberty.
Thank you, Inspector, for your consideration.
Not at all. It was the best way out of it.
Inspector Donahue,
Yes?
my congratulations.
Thank you. You know, you were quite right about me. I was being a damn fool.
Daddy. Daddy, you know, I lied about her. I lied about her. Mother, please.
Now remember, miss, all the love in the world is hanging over you. You'll have wealth, happiness, prosperity. You'll marry the man that you love, and you'll be happy all your life long. All the love in the world is hanging over you. Don't let it go.
Dream